Hi, this is Dana Gardner, Principal Analyst at Inter Arbor Solutions, and you're listening to BriefingsDirect. Our next Intelligent Workspaces discussion explores how businesses are looking to the latest digital technologies to transform how employees work. There's a tremendous amount of noise, clutter, and distraction in the scattershot multi-cloud workplace of today, and it's creating confusion and frustration that often pollute processes and hinder innovative and impactful work from getting done. We're here to examine how IT can elevate the game of sorting through apps, services, data, and delivery of simpler, more intelligent experiences that enable people in any context to work on relevancy and consistently operate at their informed best. To illustrate new paths to the next generation of higher productivity work, I'm pleased to be joined by Marco Stalder, team leader of Citrix Workspace Services at Bechtle, one of Europe's leading IT services firms. Welcome, Marco.
Welcome. Very nice to be here.
We're glad to have you with us. We're also here with Tim Minahan, Executive Vice President of Strategy and Chief Marketing Officer at Citrix. Welcome back, Tim.
Hey, Dana. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Tim, improving the employee experience has become a hot topic. Billions of dollars involved, really. Why has now become a time when workers and how they do or don't do their jobs well become such a prominent issue? Why is this percolating now?
Well, Danny, I think the simple answer is the talent crunch, right? Just everywhere you look, workforce management, talent acquisition has become a C-level, if not board-level priority. And it really boils down to three things. Number one, there's just demographically, there's not enough talent. I mean, you've heard the numbers from McKinsey that within the next year, there'll be a shortage of 95 million medium to high-skilled workers around the globe. And that's only being exacerbated by the fact that our traditional work models, where we would build a big office building or a call center and then try to hire people around it, is fundamentally broken. The second key reason is there's a skills gap. Many companies are trying to re-engineer their business to drive digital transformation and build new digital business models or engagement models with their customers. Oftentimes, their employee base doesn't necessarily have those skills, and they need to work on developing them. But then the third one is the issue that's exacerbating the talent crunch really is the fact that if you're fortunate enough to have the talent, it's highly likely they're disengaged at work. Gallup just did its global future of work study and found that 85% of employees are either disengaged or highly disengaged at work. And a chief reason of that is they don't feel they have access to the information and the tools that they need to effectively get their job done.
And we have dissatisfaction. We have a hard time finding people. We have a hard time keeping people. What can we bring to the table to help solve that? Is there some model? Is there some combination of what HR used to do and IT maybe didn't think about doing but has to do?
Yeah, well, the concept of employee experience is one that is working its way into corporate parlance. And the chief reason is we want to be able to ensure that the employees have the right combination of physical space, right, the right environment where they can feel that it's conducive with interacting and partnering with their project teams and getting work done. Digital space, right, making sure that not just they have access to technology, but that it is simplified and curated to ensure that they're getting the right information and insights to get their job done. And then obviously culture, right? Going down to, who's my manager? What's my development career? Am I continuing to move forward? So those three things are combining when we talk about employee experience.
And you talked about the where and the physical environment. A lot of companies have experimented with at-home workers, remote workers, branch offices. We still haven't got the formula right, though. And at the same time, we're seeing cities become very congested, very expensive. What do we need to do now on that physical terra firma aspect of this? Do we need to give people more choice? And if we do, how can we support that?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely onto something, Dana. Right, the traditional work models of old just aren't working, especially in the light of the talent crunch, and especially in the light of the skills gap that we're seeing. You're seeing companies, probably a great and high-profile example is Amazon, right? So over the past year in the U.S., there was this big debate, high profile. Is Amazon going to select their second headquarters and the third headquarters? And it really didn't matter because years ago, Amazon realized they couldn't hire all the talent they needed in Seattle or Silicon Valley or Austin, and now they have 17 some odd tech centers around the U.S. with anywhere from 400 to several thousand people, at each one. And so you need to go where the talent is. And so when we think about, traditional work models where we would build a call center and hire a lot of people around that call center is just fundamentally broken. So just evidence of this, we did a study recently where we surveyed 5,000 professional knowledge workers, just in the U.S. And these are folks that, moved to cities because they had opportunities, because they get paid more. And 70% of them said that they would move out of the city if they could have more flexible work schedules and reliable connectivity.
It's pretty attractive when you can get twice the house for half the money, still make city wages, and have higher productivity. It's a tough equation to beat.
Yeah, there's that higher productivity thing, this whole concept of mindfulness that's working its way into the lingo, which really means, hey, I was hired to do a core job. I would say that you nor I were hired to, spend our days doing things like expense report approvals or performance reviews or, purchase requisitions. Yet it's a core part of everyone's job when they're in their office. You compound that with 2-hour commutes and so on, and there's a lot of distraction in the office. We often need to navigate multiple different applications just to get a bit of information we need. We often need to navigate multiple different applications to get a single business process done, and that's just not dealing with all the different interfaces, but it's also dealing with all the different authentications and so on. Just all that noise in your day really frustrates workers because they feel I was hired to do a job based on my core skills that I'm really passionate about, and I'm spending all my time doing this task work.
I feel it. I find myself spending way too much time in email that's responding to applications that are kicking off alerts that distract me. But let's move away from the problem. I think everybody knows it and feels it. How do we start to solve this now? What can the technology side bring to the table? And how can that start to move into the culture, the methods, and the rethinking of how work gets done?
Mm-hmm. The simple answer is you need to clear away the clutter, and you need to bring intelligence to bear. Intelligence in the form of, we believe AI and machine learning play a key role. And so what Citrix has done is we've really organized around delivering a digital workspace that has really 3 primary attributes. First, it's unified, giving users or employees everything they need to be productive in one unified experience. Single sign-on access to all of their SaaS apps, their web apps, their mobile apps, their virtualized apps, and all of their content in one place that travels consistently with them wherever they are, across their laptop to a tablet to a smartphone, or even if they need to log on from a distant terminal. The second component, in addition to unified, is secure. When things are within the workspace, we can now apply contextual security policies based on, we know who you are. We know Dana logs in every day from this network using this device, and when you act abnormally or outside of that pattern, we can apply additional level of authentication or some other rules like shutting off certain functionalities like downloading and the like. So your applications and content are more secure in the workspace than outside. But the third component that really gets to this frustration part for the employee is intelligence. Infusing machine learning and simplified workflows, or what we call micro apps, within the workspace to bring a lot of those consumer experiences we have, like Facebook curating your information and news streams and so on, or Netflix providing recommendations on the entertainment you would like to see, and bringing that into the workspace so that when you show up, you get presented with, in a very personalized way, the insights and tasks that you need when you need them, and remove that noise from your day so you can focus on your core job.
Getting that triage that's based on context, that has a relevancy to the other processes that my team is involved with, that sounds super important. When it comes to IT, they've been part of the problem, right? They've just layered on more apps. They're going to be part of the solution. But who else needs to play a role here? How else can we think about re-architecting work other than just more technology?
Well, certainly, if you're going to deliver employee experience, one of the big mistakes a lot of companies make is they leave out the employee. They go off and craft a great employee experience and then present it to them. So definitely bring employees in there. But when we've been doing research and engaging with customers that have really prioritized employee experience, have these initiatives, it's usually a union between IT and HR, right? And understanding what the work is that an employee needs to get done. What's the preferred environment and ways in which they want to work, and then ensuring that you're adapting that digital workspace and the physical workplace in order to support that.
Well, it certainly makes sense in theory. Let's learn about some more about how this works in practice. Marco, tell us a bit about Bechtle and what you're doing in your organization and why you saw employee productivity and solving some of these issues as a real top priority.
Bechtle is one of Europe's leading IT providers. We currently have around 70 system integrators across Germany, Switzerland, and Austria, as well as e-commerce businesses in 14 different European countries. We have been founded in 1983, and our company headquarters is based in Neckarsund, that's a smaller town in the southern part of Germany. We currently have around close 10,000 to 11,000 employees spread across all Europe. And as an IT company, it's one of our key priorities to really make IT as easy as possible to use for the end users. But in the past, it wasn't always the case because of the priorities have been set on the wrong place.
And when you say the priorities were set in the wrong place, when you tried to create the right requirements and the right priorities, how did you go about that? What were the top issues you wanted to solve?
I mean, the hard part there is driving the balance between security and user experience. And in the past, it was a bit more focused on the security part, and that's what we try to shift with this corporate workspace project we initiated at Bechtle, to really give the user this kind of experience back again and let him enjoy doing the work and really let him focus on what he has to do.
And just to be clear, are we talking about the users that are just within your corporation, or did this extend also to some of your clients and how you're interacting with them?
The primary focus was our internal user base. But of course, we also have contractors that are externally. They have to access our data. They have to access our applications.
And so, Tim, this is another issue that companies are dealing with, is they're not just the traditional 40-hour-a-week workforce. We're talking about contingent workforces, contractors that come and go, creative people that are on another continent. We have to think about the mix here, too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You are seeing a major shift in how companies are beginning to think of the workforce between full-time and part-time contractors and the like. Now, really, leading companies are beginning to look around pools of talent. How do I organize the right skills or resources I need, bring them together in an environment, whether it's physical or digital, in order to collaborate around a project and then dissolve them when that project is complete. And that's what excites me about when we talk about the workspace. We talk about the opportunity that technology can enable new work models. A great example is a customer of ours, eBay, that people are familiar with, and they a long time ago recognized that, hey, this call center model, we just can't get ahead of it. We keep training people up, and then the turnover is so fast. So they've begun using the workspace together with some of our networking technologies to go to where the employees are, right? Go to the stay-at-home parent in Montana or the retiree in Florida or the gig worker in New York and kind of Uberify the call center model, giving them the applications and the knowledge base they need and reliable connectivity they need to when you and I call in, it sounds like we're calling a call center and getting the answers we need to our problems.
Mm-hmm. And so, Marco, you had this organization that had permeable boundaries, that there wasn't a hard wall between you and where your customers started and ended. The Citrix workspace was something of interest to you to solve that, but what are other problems and what was the outcome?
One of the main criteria for Bechtle was, and we have been growing constantly during the last 36 years. Bechtle started as a small company with around 100 employees 36 years ago. And this organically and inorganically growth, that's still going on currently. And we are growing quite rapidly. We just acquired another 4 companies by the end of last year, for example, with 400 to 500 employees. And we really have to onboard them quickly. And the teams, as you said before, the teams are spread around different locations, different offices. Even my team, for example, I'm sitting in Switzerland with 4 people together. Another party sitting in Germany, and I have one colleague sitting in Budapest, for example. And really giving the people the correct access and secure access to all the applications and data they need. That's definitely key. On the other side, as an IT company, we also have to adapt to new technologies rapidly and quickly, probably faster than other companies are doing that, because we always want to be ahead of the technology and offer our employees who are selling the same solutions to our customers, the same experience and a good experience.
We call that drinking your own champagne in some markets. Again, tell us about the process through which you evaluated the solution, the workspace that you've created, and why that's been powerful.
I mean, we started in early 2016 with, let's say, a high-level design for something we call Bechtle Corporate Workspace. And we started with an on-prem design like probably a lot of companies are doing. And then we got introduced to something called Citrix Cloud Services at this time by our partner manager in Germany. So in January 2017, we started to think about could that be probably an interesting addition to what we already planned to do. And we quickly started to realize that because the team I'm leading, we are 6 to 8 people currently. And we just have limited resources of really delivering all those services out to our end users. And we then started to realize that really these Citrix Cloud services are a perfect fit for the project we want to do. And it has different kinds of reasons. At the end, one point is standardization. So we can really build one platform to access all of our applications, data, services. Another one is flexibility. Even most of the workload currently is in our own data centers based in Germany. We are also thinking about to move workload and data out to the cloud. Doesn't matter if it's Azure, AWS, or you're going to name it. Another thing, of course, is scalability. As I said, we have been growing a lot and we are going to grow a lot in the future. So we really need to be able to scale out. It doesn't matter where the workload is going to be or where the data is going to be at the end. And as an IT company, we are facing another issue there, that we are selling different kinds of products to our customers, and the people probably tend to like to use the product they are selling to their customers. So we probably have for one task different kinds of applications. For example, we are using Microsoft Teams, we are using Cisco WebEx, we are using WebEx Teams, we are using Skype for Business, we are using any other kind of application. And of course, that perfectly fits into what we saw today morning in the keynote, really bringing that together in the future in the workspace with just all those small micro apps and microservices. Another thing then, of course, is efficiency. As I said before, with 7 or 8 people, you cannot really build very complex and large things. You really have to focus on doing the things very efficient. Another thing was really important for us as we set up the project was really engaging the whole executive board of Bechtle. Because without those people really standing behind this idea and really understanding what we trying to do, the project is definitely going to fail. And that was definitely something not that easy, because telling those people what we would like to do is one thing, but they sometimes didn't really understand it, so we really had to build some kind of a POC system and trying to let them see and touch and feel by themselves what we are talking about, because otherwise they wouldn't understand it.
And of course, this is a team sport. You don't just buy this out of the box. Digital transformation doesn't come with a pretty ribbon on it. How did you go about creating this workspace, maybe with your partners, and how did you decide on a hybrid deployment? Why was that important?
I mean, it was really a teamwork spread in different kind of organizational groups within Bechtle. We also have been working very close together with Citrix Consulting Services in Germany, for example. We have been working together with the engineers within our business units who are selling and implementing those solutions within our customers. And another very important part, in my opinion, was not just engaging the Citrix people, let's call them like that, but also engaging, for example, application owners. Because it doesn't really help if I just give them a very nice virtual desktop and they're able to log on fast, but they don't have any applications on, or the application doesn't work very well, or they have to log on again, for example, or they have to configure it before using it. So we really try to do some kind of an end-to-end thing there by really engaging all the different people from the front-end client until networking applications, application backend. And we have been quite successfully, for example, there in our main business applications, for example, SAP or Microsoft Navision, by really telling the people what we want to do, get those application guys on board and they started to understand what that means for them. Because traditionally in the past, we have been rolling out, for example, some Navision updates that was really done in those 70 different locations. They sent them emails out and said, can you please go to the next version? Can you please update that or that? That is, of course, needs a lot of time on one side and is very hard to troubleshooting. For example, if someone's calling, you don't know how his setup is going to look like or how it's set up, configured. And by really standardize all those things together and really say we deploy it once, we configure it once, and we roll it out once. And then it doesn't matter who is going to use it, at what time he's going to use it. And that also made all those rollouts for us much easier at the end of the day. Because we are still doing the rollouts currently for example, virtual apps and desktop. We just reach around 30% of our employees at this time. And that's done in a highly standardized small project we are doing with every business unit, for example. And there we also realized that really talking to the people, informing the people, guiding the people also how they have to use the new solution. It's changing, and some people, they react a bit slow on change. They say first, I don't want to try it, I don't need it. And that was also a learning process we had to go through to really see what kind of documentation, for example, what kind of guidance the people need. And those are very simple things. Because if the people come from, that's my personal computer I'm having on my desk, I'm taking that one back home and using a VPN to connect back to my company resources. And then I say, you no longer need this PC. You can use any device to access. You can work from home. You can work from on the road or things like that. Those are very simple things, but the people have to understand that they can do that now.
As I like to say, we used to force people to conform to the apps, and now we're getting to the point where we can get the apps and service to conform to what the people want and need. But we've talked about this in terms of the productivity at the employee. How about your IT department when it came to things like security and governance and giving people flexibility, but also putting up the guardrails to make sure that this is still enterprise caliber services and support? How did your IT people react to this, and what are some of their feedback?
I mean, also, because of this traditional way of silo-based thinking, that also needed a lot of time to convince the people, especially some security guys, for example. They said, yeah, you want to go to Citrix Cloud. What does it mean at the end for security, for example? And we have been working very close with Citrix together to really try to explain the security officer what kind of data goes to the cloud, how it's getting stored there, how it's getting processed, for example. And that took quite a while to get some kind of approval there, but at the end it went through, definitely. But also the IT guys, they really have to understand the solution. And there's also another thing we see sometimes, if the IT guys are not really using the things the IT guys are building. That's one challenge we are seeing quite often, because they think, yeah, that's just for the end user. But I think I saw a quote today on Twitter where someone wrote that the admin is also an end user in some way. And they also have to get on board and really use those solutions, because otherwise they don't know what we are talking about again.
So now that you've been through this process and you have the workspace in place and you've customized it, you have your deployment suited to your organization and your needs geographically, what have you found? What are some metrics of success? When you do this and you do it well, what do you get back?
I mean, unfortunately, to measure productivity is something I'm not really able to do. It's a very hard thing to do, and I don't have any numbers on that. I just get feedback from employees who are talking about different things if they're trying the system. And quite an interesting story, for example, there was one guy, he was also a bit skeptical. He's within our application consulting group, and he was writing, I think it was almost one-page long email one day, and there he wrote about that his notebook was broken. So he had to use the new workspace, and he had to try it at the end of the day. And he wrote me some very interesting facts and figures about that, because he really wrote me that it's faster. It's faster to log on. The applications are starting faster. It's easy to use. And he started to realize, because he's doing a lot of presentations and training, and he started to realize very simple things, that he can start to work on one device and then switch back to another device, maybe in the meeting room, or go to the training room and just continue the work there. That was quite an interesting feedback at the end. And we also get feedback from other people who are saying, yeah, they really can work from everywhere. They can access everything they need, especially if they go out to the customer. They just have to remember one place they are going to log on. They just log on once, have all the data they need, having all the applications they are going to need.
Great. Tim, when you hear a story like this and the feedback from Marco, what jumps out at you, and what do you find that perhaps makes this something that couldn't have been done before, but that is overdue?
Yeah. Well, what stands out to me is just the universal challenge that we're all experiencing now, right? That the employee experience is less than adequate in most organizations, and that is impacting both not only the ability to retain and develop and keep great talent, but it's also impacting your overall business. What also stands out is when technology is harnessed in a way that puts the employee first and drives a superior experience to allow them to have access to the information and the tools that they need to get their job done. Not only does employee experience go up, retention goes up, but you also drive better customer experience and better business results. I think the third thing that stands out is the recognition that traditionally, we in the IT sector really focused on, we're going to put security in the way of the experience. And now if you put the employee at the center, we're beginning to drive that balance between experience and security. It's not an either-or equation anymore, and I think this story is a great example of that in reality.
One of the things that was interesting for me was that employees perhaps have gotten somewhat used to the way things are. There's the status quo, and whenever you get people to change, you hit inertia. But when you had a necessity crop up and somebody was forced to try something new, they found that there are better ways to do things. And that's something that people need to keep in mind, is just because you haven't experienced it yet doesn't mean that you're at the point where you're at the be-all, end-all, that things can, in fact, get quite a bit better.
Right. It's the old saw. If you asked folks what they wanted, they would want a faster horse. And then we never would have had the car.
There it is. I'm afraid we'll have to leave it there. You've been listening to a sponsored Briefings Direct discussion on how businesses are looking to the latest digital technologies to renew their work methods and models to transform the employee experience. And we've learned how IT can elevate the game by sorting through apps, services, and data to deliver a simpler, more intelligent experience that enables people in context to focus on their relevant work. A big thank you to our guests who've been here with Marco Stalder, team leader of Citrix Workspace Services at Beckley, one of Europe's leading IT services firms. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, Dana.
We've also been here with Tim Minahan, Executive Vice President of Strategy and Chief Marketing Officer at Citrix. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dana. Always a pleasure.
And a big thank you to our audience as well for joining this Briefings Direct Intelligent Workspaces discussion. I'm Dana Gardner, Principal Analyst at InterArbor Solutions, your host throughout this series of Citrix-sponsored Briefings Direct discussions. Thanks again for listening. Please share this with your IT community, and do come back next time.